This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutastrophe, and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this day, October 3rd, 1981, the Montreal Expos qualified for the playoffs for the first and only time in history before they became the Washington Nationals. So anyhow, the Expos were in a tight race. Now, the 1981 baseball season was huge for the way it played out. So the 1981 season started out as normal, and for the first few months it was okay. But then June 9th, there was a massive player strike, and for free agent compensation and everything else. So that meant that the season would be shut down. For 50 days, baseball was at a standstill. Nobody budged on their offers, and it looked like the baseball season would be done and dusted. And the worst part is, not many sports were still around. Hockey didn't finish after May. Basketball kind of did, so they had a little bit of attention. And football, well, who plays football in the spring? So anyway, there were fears the season was done for. But thankfully, though, the owners got back together, and we had a season starting up again in August. So to figure out what to do, baseball decided to have the winner, whoever led the divisions, the 4 divisions, when the strike happened, would win a spot in what they called the divisional playoff. And everyone would start at ground zero and have the fact that, if you win the division in the second half, you will face your guys in a division series. This was the division series before the division series even existed in 1995. So, that'd be huge. Now, of course, the biggest question on everyone's lips is, what if a team wins both halves? Now, baseball didn't have that situation in 1981, spoiler alert. But the situation, as I hear it, is that whoever took second in the second half in that thing, so Philly, as they were the Eastern champions before the strike, would have, if they had won first place, and whoever took second, whether it be St. Louis or Montreal or even the Mets, would have been the team to face Philadelphia. But as I said, it didn't come to that. The AL East had Milwaukee and New York win the 2 halves. The West had Oakland win the first half. And Kansas City, after a crappy first half, actually won the second half. Whereas in the West, it was Houston and LA going to fight each other for the division, just like they did in 1980. And Philly would have to wait on somebody in 1981. Who would be the second half champion? And Montreal was on fire. After firing Dick Williams, who was a pretty good manager, but couldn't get them over the hump, Jim Fanning went from general manager to manager. And he put a laissez-faire approach to the Expos, and it actually worked. The Expos went into the Saturday afternoon game in front of 17,000 fans at Shea Stadium, needing to win the game and to clinch a spot in the second half. So the Expos sent Warren Cromartie out at first base, Jerry White right field, Andre Dawson center, Gary Carter at catcher, Larry Parrish third base, Tito Francona, yes, Terry Francona left field, Jerry Manuel at second, Chris Spire at short, and Scotty Sanderson being the pitcher. The Mets had Lee Vasily at center, Frank Tavares at short, Hubie Brooks third base, Dave Kingman left, Rusty Staub, former Expo legend, at first base, Ellis Valentine right field, former Expo. As I said a couple days ago, he was traded for Jeff Reardon when I did the Jeff Reardon birthday boy. Alex Trevino catching, Doug Flynn at second, and Mike Scott, yes, that Mike Scott, who would be a future Astros icon and Cy Young winner, pitching. It was all quiet till the bottom of the second as Ed Lynch would hit a sac fly. Well, Mike Scott was just what they call... Mike Scott only pitched 1 inning, which was weird. Ed Lynch came in. He was the pitcher, and he had a sac fly to score Alex Trevino, 1-0 Expos trailing. The Mets then scored a couple more runs. Rusty Staub an RBI double, and Alex Trevino an RBI single made it 3-0. Brent Smith had to come in for Sanderson. And it looked hopeless. But the Expos, Brad Mills, who pinch hit for Brent Smith, had a RBI ground out. Bill Lee, yes, Bill Spaceman Lee, came into the 5th inning. Expos got a home run by Gary Carter to left field in the sixth, making it 3-2. And then off of Neil Allen, who came in for Ed Lynch, the Expos were fighting. Francona reached on a ground ball error. Jerry Manuel grounded out, forcing Francona at second, but Manuel got to first base. John Milner pinch hit for Spire and hit a single to score to get Manuel to second. Wallace Johnson then came in to pinch hit for Bill Lee, and Rodney Scott came in to pinch run for Milner. And then out of freaking nowhere, on a 1-1 count, Wallace Johnson hit a triple to right field, scoring Manuel and scoring Scott. So the Expos were at 4-3. Jeff Reardon came into the game for the bottom of the seventh. And pitched well. The Expos added a run on a Jerry Manuel RBI double to make it 5-3. Reardon did give up a home run to Mike Kubich to make it 5-4. But in the bottom of the ninth, Reardon was still pitching as Mike Jorgensen popped to short. Hubie Brooks grounded out. Future Expo, Hubie Brooks I should say, and Dave Kingman flew one to left field, caught for the third out, and the Expos escaped with the win and took care of business against the Cardinals. So the Expos, despite losing the next day, were in the playoffs to face the Phillies for the division crown. Best of 5. Now, of course, the 1981 playoff format was flawed because guess what? St. Louis and Cincy, both having great records through both halves of the season, actually did not qualify for the playoffs. As I said, Houston and LA were the two teams from the NL West, and Philly and Montreal the two teams in the NL East. So St. Louis and Cincy would be bit by that the most. The American League not so much, but the National League really bad. Cincy even made a banner saying best team in baseball in 1981. The worst part about the Reds was that they floundered and had their first 100-loss season in years the next season. Fortunately for the Cardinals, their one-season bullshit actually didn't matter, as they were the 1982 World Series champions. So, you know, there was a happy ending after all. The Expos went on to face Philly in the divisional round. In Montreal, the first two games, the Expos won. Then Philly won the next two back at the Federal Stadium. And then Game 5 at the Fed. Steve Rogers outdueled Steve Carlton. Expos win 3-0. Went to the NLCS to take on the LA Dodgers, who had to come back from 2-0 down against the Astros in that divisional round. We all know what happened with Game 5 of the best of 5 LCS, but Montreal had a chance. They were up 2-1. All they needed to do was win Game 4 on the Saturday, but they failed, and then they had a rainout, which meant that they had to play on Blue Monday, on a Monday, and then 24 hours later they would have had to go to the World Series and play Game 1. So, yeah, so the Expos clinched their first playoff berth as a franchise, and it was their only one for years until Washington got back into the saddle by 2012. It was just heartbreaking to see. I mean, yeah, the 94 team, everyone talks about how the 94 team would have definitely made the playoffs. But here's the fact. The Expos in 79 and 80 lost on the final weekend to the team that eventually won the NL East and much less won the World Series, because the 79 Pirates and 1980 Phillies both were World Series champions and then won the NL East from the Expos. So, yeah, the Expos finally got their playoff berth. It wasn't a division title per se, but anything goes in this day and age. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do